It calls for initial design, Office of Minority Affairs in the whole country with any major university that I ever saw. If they did anything for minorities or women, it was in some back room with a little sign, the women program, and it was hardly visible. And as I told President Odegaard when I agreed to take the job, that I would take it provided we were able to grow even during times of economic downturn. And I indicated to him that I didn't want a job that my office would be over near the football shed behind the stadium, the grass area behind the stadium. I wanted to be on the campus, looked at like any legitimate program, and I wanted to have a blank check to draw up with my experiences in education and particularly in design and the military. I have some specific kinds of things and my own experiences in terms of discrimination, how I felt, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How would you feel if someone says that, push you out of line and says, "There are no nigger lieutenants in the Army. What are you wearing that uniform from, boy?" Yeah, corporal, white corporal. He was half loaded, and he was pretty much poor white trash. And I said, "Don't you ever touch an officer," and I laid it out there. Fortunately, I waved to two MPs in the train station at Atlanta, Georgia. In Atlanta, Georgia, good old Atlanta, Georgia. I told the story to my dear old friend, Martin King, and he just about flipped years before he died. They looked at me and turned it back and walked off. And then the Lord must have, I put this fellow and pushed him, and 45 or 50 people converged. A white major walked up and raised his hand. Wait a minute, I'll take care of this. I'll take care of this. I'm Major so-and-so, I'll take care of this. Oh, by God, he don't put his hands on. Oh, some ugly things were shouted at me. I'll never forget that. Got my bag, and this major got me by the arm, gently says, "Lieutenant, come on with me. This shouldn't be happening. Come on with me." He led me to my train and stayed there till it departed. And he said, "One day, you fellows you will get the honor you deserve." I'll never forget that. Oh, yeah. I got on that train in a Jim Crow coach in a corner seat and cried like a baby. I'll never forget that. And I thought then, as to the time I was thinking about going regular Army and that kind of stuff, staying there, what in the world am I thinking about? But I did persevere. That incident happened while I was a young lieutenant coming out of Fort Benning, Georgia. So anyway, I got out of the Army and taught at Everett Junior College, mainly because the NAACP were protesting that there were no black teachers in the community college system, and not Mississippi, but state of Washington. 27 community colleges. Okay, fine. So anyway, they were agitating, and the president was a reserve officer, Lieutenant Colonel, man, nice guy. And I was interviewed by him and by some people and said, "Sam, why don't you stay with us? I'd like you to stay with us." Same deal. And he was a civilian and said, "God, we could do a lot of things." And he said, "Hell, the NAACP was on my case. I'm not worried about that. I'd just like to have you with your background." So I took that job. And it taught me the ropes in terms of teaching at that level. I really liked the community college level because the kids need the education, and they're willing to listen if you bring something to the table, and not read, but tell history through stories. And I did very well. I had a very good reputation with the faculty and with the students. Only one thing, it was driving one way, from at the time we were living at south part of Beacon Hill. So southern part of Beacon Hill to Everett on the daily, that was a long way. So after teaching there for, 3 years, yes, because I taught there a couple of nights a week when I was still on active duty. And I would go up there a couple of nights a week while I was at Fort Lawton as the Chief of Plans, Training, and Operations. So I got out of the military to accept an appointment, and at Everett. So when getting out there in Everett, I did the 2 years there or so, 2.5 years, and then I had a job open, and I was asked to come to Shoreline Community College. And of all of them, apart from university, because that was a different thing, that's the one I enjoyed the most. Because the president, young guy, he was former Marine, we played golf together and all the other kinds of things together, and they would encourage me to get my doctorate and all that kind of stuff. And the guy, this is something that people don't know, it's in my book. The one who started the notion of a special education thing at the community college was a white guy, my dear friend Dick White, who's president, not me, of Shoreline Community College. Dick White. He was distressed one day. I took the job at Shoreline, and I was teaching developing African American history, and I was teaching U.S. history to 1865, since 1865, and I was teaching the course that I liked above and beyond all. What was it? East Asian history, from the 17th century on. I did some background stuff, but mainly 17th century on, and it's a fascinating area. The Western imperialism and the way China got cut up by 17, 18 nations and all that kind of stuff. And I was fat and happy. And the president and the vice president and one of the deans, we had a foursome, and their wives were all together, and we'd just go away, play at Fort Lewis, and the wives would meet us there, and we'd take them to the officers club for dinner, and we just had a good time. So Dick White came to my office and said, look, the college students and the whites on the football team aren't getting along, Sam. Maybe we need to bring more, would I say black, or what do I say? I said, well, Dick, say whatever you want to say. Black, you want to say, that's what seems to be in nowadays, and we laughed about that. And we were that open and honest with each other. I said, okay, well, the black students would be more in. Maybe we'd bust them in and say, look, sure, that's what you want to do. Well, I'd like you to draw up a program, bust them into the school. And I said, you know what you're asking me to do, don't you? He said, you're asking me to do what they're trying to do in the public schools, and they're catching hell doing that. So we could speak that candidly. I said, I don't know, I think that there's something that's needed, certainly at college level. And we talked, and we talked. And I said, well, hell, maybe let's call it the Office of Minority Affairs. He said, yeah, okay, let's call it the Black Student Project. No. Because the same thing is happening to black students, it's happening to women, it's happening to so-and-so and so-and-so. So no, they leave it open, leave your options open at that point. So he said, okay, what would you call it? Well, maybe why don't we say Minority Affairs? But I think it's a catch-all thing for lots of people. And no one should be denied. And from that day to the day I left, poor white students were always admitted to the program for Minority Affairs at Shoreline and the University of Washington. Now, a lot of jackasses who get up and say who holler when I talk about reverse integration, reverse segregation, and all that kind of stuff, they know what the hell they're talking about, because never, from that day to this and today, I invented that program essentially as it is structured now. Oh, they've added some nice things, which are good and are better than we had, but they've enriched it. But from that day to this, there had always been white students in the program. And I know because I said they would go, and I increased it by number myself from 50 to 500 when I first came there. Yes. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So anyway, that's the way we did it with that. Now, we at Shoreline had a group of aggressive, I hate to say liberal and conservative, because how do I define myself? I don't define myself. I dress conservatively. I salute the flags. Make me a right winger? No, not hardly. I don't know what the hell am I, you know? And so all I'm saying is that we had a group of people who were concerned, were giving the very best for all students, and particularly those who derive from parents who are from the South, etc., to have some idea of how you go about from community college to get a university degree, and put some resources in those areas in the college. So I was named the assistant president for minority affairs at Shoreline Community College. I had an assistant who was a young woman, and I had a secretary. And that was it. I had a wonderful faculty committee of about 12 people who recruited, who talked to students we had to visit us on campus, and that kind of thing. And that was the skeleton that I used for the University of Washington. I made several trips. I said that if we're having a program like this, then we need to look at our curriculum. And we need to look at Black history. We need to look at some of these other kinds of things, the sociology of being Black. We need to look at some of these other things that Harvard is starting to do, and some of the others. I went to Harvard, made a presentation to the Black Student Union there, and I went to Yale, and a dean there had me there. Sidney Mintz, a foremost historian, I met with him in terms of African American history. Harvard, Donna, Harvard, my dear friend, my friend at Harvard, Professor Martin Kilson at Harvard. Thank you, hon. At Harvard. I went to Howard University also, and I met the foremost person really in Black history. Carter G. Woodson was called the father of Black history. He was taught by Carter G. Woodson, and I met him at Howard University, and the Union for the Study of Negro Life, History, and Culture. He developed that in that office, and the Crisis magazine, which in 1915-16 started the first publications for Black history. Negro history was called Negro history, and whatever the case might be. W.E.B. Du Bois, yes. I met him when I was 11 years old. I met him through Powell Lindsay, who was a Black playwright. Powell Lindsay lived with us. He had a son out of wedlock by a Polish lady, fair Black man. And he was in charge of the drama program in Greenwich. And he was affiliated with a Black playwright group in Harlem. There was an awful, the Harlem Renaissance. He was one in the middle of the Harlem Renaissance, and along with 15, 20 other playwrights. He wrote Young Men of Harlem, you name it, he knew all of these people. He was doing a play, Lindsay was doing a play in Greenwich, and Dark Cavalcade. I played a little part in it as a slave and all that kind of crap. But anyway, he came in one night and told me, he said, we're going to have an affair. He said, look, and I want you to come. I said, oh, Mr. Lindsay, I got my homework I got to do. And he said, well, no, this is one that your teacher will probably permit you to do. You just tell her that you're going to see what you're going to see. You're going to see the greatest Negroes who ever performed. You're going to see all the leading entertainers. And you're going to see this Dr. W.B. Du Bois and all these other things and these leaders. And I said, many people from Atlanta, just a mecca for Black education. And he's telling me this when I was 11 years old. Well, I'm 80 now. So anyway, he said, and true, it was one of the most fantastic nights. They took over the Harlem Renaissance, and I guess there were, good God, there had to be over 1,000 people there. I would judge 1,400 or so. Lindsay says, Sam, you and your mom and Mr. Kelly, you stick with me. And he introduced us to all the prominent black writers. But I distinctly remember Dr. Du Bois. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, well, how you doing there, young fella? Where are you going to college? And everybody I met, where are you going to college? What are you going to do? What are you going to do for the race? The race. Well, sir, I'm going to go to college and see what I can do to help the race. I'll never forget that. That's what mother said. You tell them that's what you're going to do, and that's what your mother and dad want you to do. So he said, well, I've got a job for you if you do. So, oh, yeah, just like that. So, and we met Adam Clayton Powell. I met him, not his son, no, the Adam Clayton Powell, who's dead now. Yeah, I met him, and he grabbed me, Adam Clayton Powell, and rustled my hair. I wouldn't have far to rush it, you know. But then held me and said, well, what are you going to do when you get to be big? Well, I guess I'm going to college, sir. I said, well, that's good, that's good. I pray for you, too. And he shoveled me and be a good young man. And he was very, very fair, straight hair. And I said, Mom, who's that white man anyhow? I'll never forget. She said, hush, son, that's Reverend Powell. He's a Negro. He's a Negro. I'll never forget. It was so fair. Who's that white man anyways, brushing my hair? He's a Negro. I said, Reverend Adam Clayton Powell. That's right. So anyway, that was the story in terms of Adam Clayton Powell. So all of that then spins into my interest in black history, and back to the University of Washington, going from Shoreline to the University of Washington. When I was consulting with Charles Evans, who was running the SEP, S-E-P or SEP program, special education program. Well, the first thing, it should have been labeled special education program, because that was a label that you use for retarded children. And I scolded him about that. And yet this guy, I scolded him a few times. And he said, well, what do you think I should be doing? I said, first thing you ought to do is get yourself a good black guy and run your program. Someone who's got ability. Never thinking he'd go, because he mentioned me, what I was going to be doing. I said, I'm fat and happy right here. Got a great young guy who's the president. I'm working on my doctorate. And I was then thinking about presidency in the state of Washington Community College. That was my next step. So, and I had been approached for that already. See, so, and I refused one appointment because I didn't have my doctorate. And I thought that black people needed a black guy who had his PhD. It wouldn't be me if I did not have a doctorate. So that's the way I felt, and that's the way it was. Okay, so Dr. Charles Evans came to the office one day and says, Sam, he said, we've gotten together with the consultancies, but I'd like to ask you about a serious question. He said, would you apply for the president? Would you meet the president, apply for the job, and the vice president notice first? I said, oh, wow, you need someone. I said, same thing. Well, this is a community college. It's a different thing. The University of Washington, but you've been in all these places. I don't know of anyone that I know, a black person that's done and gone and done the thing you've done. So Chuck Evans was the one who convinced me. So I agreed to do this, and up came the day that I was supposed to meet the big banana, Odegaard, Charles Odegaard. And I frankly thought I'd be back. Just to chat and be back in a couple of hours. I think it was about 4.5 hours. Point of time, I went down, I'm up to the office and announced who I was. Oh, yes, Mr. Kelly. Didn't have my doctorate then. Mr. Kelly, they're still waiting for me. I said, they? I said, yes. His cabinet. And his, I thought it was just Dr. Odegaard. Oh, see, no, his cabinet. They want to chat. All of you want to chat. Well, I said, how many people are there? She said, I'm half a dozen or so, or something like that. Really? I said, well, fine, well, let's go. And I marched in there, and I met, there were 6 vice presidents, and the executive vice president in addition, and his provost. And that was it, about 8, 9 people. So we sat down, and I knew the names of them before coming there. I was briefed. Some people I got the names and all that kind of stuff, because I had some people briefing me on my side. So I said, well, your name must be so and so. I said, oh yes. So I call them vice presidents and whatever, and we started down the line talking, and they asked me all kinds of things. That, well, did you think you can function at this level of the university? And one vice president asked, well, why do you think that you should be appointed a vice president for the job? And that was one condition. I would not take a job at that level unless I was a vice president and report directly to the president of the university. It is so contentious that I will have my hands full dealing with all those fools who think all of us are crazy to try to do something like that. That's why. And they laughed. And I said, and the other kind of thing, I've been a general staff officer for, at least 7, 8 years in the military, and I know a fair amount about high-level staff, writing, operating, briefing, etc. So I don't treat this any differently at that point. Oh, they're not soldiers, but the cause and that kind of thing makes me feel like it's really something at that level. Contentious, people shooting at you intellectually. I said, you're not going to find a whole bastion of people who say, oh, yeah, we should have an office for minority affairs for all of these nice colored little boys and girls and Hispanics and so on. So I said, hell, you would be lucky if you find 50 faculty people, and they're the worst in the world. They're going to be the most contentious. I said, I found that out at Shoreline. The older they were, the worse they acted when you want to do something fairly open that hadn't been done before. They want to hang on to those corner windows till they die. They want to support that they don't need in many cases, because that's an indication of, importance, So they laughed. So I got them on my side laughing. So then they wanted me to comment on my military service. And I commented on my military service, and they thought it was kind of unusual that what I had done. And they particularly wanted me to relate some of the combat war stories, which I kind of don't particularly care for. Usually, I found out in my service the men and women who have been there really don't particularly care to talk about it, and I don't particularly care to talk about it. Men blown apart and all that kind of stuff, and people that you loved and you led, and you hope you made the right decision, and come on, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just trying to get through it with this book, you see. So anyway, then we got into ideas with regards to flow charts and what I envisioned. And I said I envisioned that over the period of time that we're talking about, over the next 10 years, that the university would consist of 10 to 15% minority students at the university. And we were primarily talking about highly visible people, you see. And the business of white students came up. I said, I understand you have some Caucasian students, and I think that ought to be expanded, because if a student's poor, and if you don't have any food in your belly, you don't give a damn if you're white, black, brown, or grizzly gray. You're in as the students say, a world of hurt. And I use those exact words. And then we laughed about it. And then one vice president said, well, Mr. Kelly, how did you feel when the students called you Uncle Tom? I said, well, Mr. Ryan, I think that that's an original statement. I don't know of any student who's called me an Uncle Tom. So as far as I'm concerned, that is an original statement. I have not read it in the newspaper, and I have not had a student to challenge me of color calling me an Uncle Tom. And I said, I think it might be the way I deport myself that I haven't had that happen. Because if that happens, I'm pretty much willing to smack somebody in the mouth. I said, frankly. So he blushed and he got red. Got to be one of my best friends after. So we talked and talked about what we were doing at Shoreline and talked about other jobs I'd been offered. They did some homework, and I had been offered some pretty high-powered jobs in Washington, D.C. and some other schools and whatever. I said, yeah, that's right. But, and I told him I got a special son home. And I don't want to try to do the job here, but I want to come home at night or on a weekend or whenever. But I spent 23 years in the military gallivanting around the world, and I think that's enough. When I decided I would not be and did not want to be two-star general, I stopped. I let that thought go with me. So it was good. Then he had several other questions, and Odegaard, his provost, Saul Katz, P-A-T-Z, his provost, said, well, Mr. Kelly said, when you have to make a decision and the president has asked you to join him in this decision and the students are against it, what would you do if you thought that you were right? I said, well, that's easy. Now, one, I'll always have an answer, even if the answer is I don't know. Two, I wouldn't come here through this door at a job unless the president would allow me to argue to the point of decision. In the military, we have that. We argue to the point of decision. So, now, it may be that I may be arguing and the president still persists. I may kick his shins under the table till they're bloody. They laughed. I'll do some shin kicking. And they just laughed. It was really funny. I said, yeah, I want that right. Yeah. And then when there's something that I can't support, that's very simple either. He will have, the day I accept the job or not, a letter signed by me, a resignation letter. All he has to do is pull it out of his center drawer. So I'm prepared to do that. Any job I take. Well, nobody can ask for anything better than that. And they laughed and they applauded. They were applauded. That was kind of shocking to me. Odegaard was just superb the way he handled it, and we just grew from that day on. There was a bond there, and some of the vice presidents became somewhat jealous. Yes, I was told by Jim Ryan, later years. Jim is a year younger than I am now. He was at my 80th birthday party, him and his wife. And his earlier wife passed on. He's remarried, but she was a friend of my late wife, Joyce. And Ryan told me that, Sam, wherever he goes, he speaks up about your program. He said, he's true blue. I said, well, you don't have to tell me that. I have that feeling. When I shake that man's hands, I have that feeling. So, one more Odegaard story. I presented him within 2 weeks a request for $175,000 to get faculty, staff, and to start building this organization. I had just tentatively 2 assistant vice presidents and chief of each of the divisions, black division, Hispanic division, etc., secretary, and 1 to 50 counselors, recruiters. Well, before I left the building, Dr. Odegaard said, the President Odegaard said he would be in touch with me. And Dr. Jim Goodman was a black guy who was a vice provost, one of the vice provosts. And he was a sociologist. And sociologist, there were two disciplines he had. Sociology, School of Social Work, had professorships in both. And he graduated of a black school, Morehouse, in Wisconsin, had great credentials. Young guy. And he had a room as a provost, an office, rather, up above and down the hall from the public relations. Was up there. So I stopped in there to see him. And so finally, I got ready to get on the elevator. After having left Jim's office, he said, "Oh, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kelly." I said, "Yeah." And I hit the elevator. He said, "Yes, you want to get in?" "Oh, no. The president wants to see you." I just left. I said, "I just left there 15 minutes ago." No, they don't want to see you. So I said, "What is it about?" "Oh, no, he wants to see you." And the gentleman was still there. So I said, "Oh, yeah." So I went back into the boardroom, and he says, "Dr. Odegaard, you sat for me. I was just ready to get on my horse and get back to Shoreline." And they said, "Well, Mr. Kelly," he said, "the job's yours." I said, "The job's yours?" He said, "Yes, you've got the job." I said, "Well, not yet. Not until you and I think, have a conversation. One-on-one conversation. I think that's very necessary." We left there, went to his office, closed the door, and I said a basic thing. No one's done this before. And if anyone has to support me, it's you. I meant what I said in there. If I can't get this thing done, I'm prepared to leave at any time. Not something I have to have. I've done a lot of things and fought communists and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to prove much of a goddamn thing. Not at all. It also means that I'm not going to be a nut, and every time the students want to do something, say, the students, we want to do this and that. And you may find I may be on the wrong side even where the students are concerned. See? But I will argue to the point of decision, and don't expect to get my way all the time, but I tell you, I'm no fool, and I expect to get my way 95% of the time. Because I think I know more about what ought to happen than anybody got on this campus. So that's not bragging. I was born black. You don't know what it feels like. I can bring some variables into this thing that you couldn't dare. And he used to use that in his speeches many times. And Sam Kelly was my mentor. Now, I was the tutee. He was the tutor. I was the tutee. He was that large a man, you see. So we bound ourselves together. Shortly after agreeing to come to the university, I got two guys. One would be the inside guy, and one would work with the students. And he would head the divisions reporting to me. That was Bill Hilliard, black. The other vice president, white, and he was a naval commander. Well, I'm a military man to work with. And Jim Collins. And I said, "Look, I've got work to do." And I said, "Well," he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Look, what are you guys doing this weekend?" I think it was at maybe a Thursday. And I said, "Well, I tell you, if you guys join me at the house, and I can open up the bar, and Joyce can fix up a little light luncheon, and join me in the study. I'm going to start working up some sketches in terms of organization." So we did. We worked all that Saturday and all that Sunday. And we came up with a skeleton model of Office of Minority Affairs. The Vice President, the two assistants, executive secretaries, here, and who's doing what, and the divisions here, and whatever. So we had a good skeletal look at it and started costing it out. Yeah, I think it was 250 because I was branching out on all the divisions with a core, with not less than 2. Yeah. So anyway, we rehearsed it and called the president, told him, and said, well, you turned down my request, President Odegaard, and he said, I'm prepared to brief you again on a revised request. I met over the weekend with my 2 assistants, and I'd like to make a presentation to you. I said, oh, well, fine. Are you sure you're ready now? And I said, yes. I said, well, how soon? I said, well, Monday morning is fine. Yeah. And, whatever it was, it's a day or so after we finished. So anyway, yeah, we were calling that weekend. Yeah, calling that weekend. That's right. Oh my God, that's right. Yeah, that's right. So they made it Tuesday, that Tuesday. So we had a flow charts, about 3 or 4 flow charts or whatever, and an easel. We showed up at his office, and then finally, his executive secretary says, asked to sit down. She disappeared. Then she came out after maybe 10 minutes and said, oh, President Odegaard would like to talk to you in his office before your presentation. So I went to his office, and he was annoyed, just beet red. He says, Mr. Kelly says, I just wanted you to be with members of my cabinet and me. If I had asked for members of your staff, I would have told you that. I was hot. Beet red. Just so different. So, well, and I thought to myself, well, this is something I need to know, because I may not be around here long. I said, okay, Mr. President, fine. Now, do you need more time? I said, no, I'll do it myself. I looked at him dead in the eyes. All right. So you walk in there, well, Mr. Kelly has this so-and-so vision of this plan, and so-and-so. So I said that, Mr. Kelly, you take the floor? I said, well, before I say this, I want to say one thing. I'm not Jesus. I did not come here to reinvent mankind. I don't have that kind of authority nor that power. But if I cannot get this approved, not a threat, but I will leave here, call Dick White, tell him I will be for duty in 72 hours. Long enough to clear up my office. Because I cannot waste time here or the program that I really love, the Shoreline Community College. Well, Mr. Scully, can you see what you have? And so, yes. And what I like is not to be interrupted for the next hour and a half, hour and a half. Any questions you have, you can ask me after that. So I took it and did the 3 parts, what I was going to do, and since my assistant would have told you this. And I went down and took his part. Then my assistant would do so-and-so and so-and, recruiting so-and-so. Here are the problems. I dropped the other part. So I talked for about an hour and 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So they looked on. And, the executive vice president was John Hogness. And then Hogness had guts. I later found out that Hogness was kind of shaky. This is in my book. Thought Hogness was going to be a Charles Odegaard. In the fact, no one could have been another Charles Odegaard. No one. So, Hogness stood up and says, Charles, Sam needs these kind of resources to start. It's an impossible job. It's an impossible job. Charles, I think we ought to go with it. Give the guy a chance and go. Why don't you young men don't be so frisky and sit down? And I know that too. So, Mr. Kelly, but by and large, if you can knock off 25,000, I'd appreciate it. I said, okay, sir, 25,000, knock it off. That's it. So we did that. So, said, well, I better get on. I've got things I've got to do. And so, all right, can I meet with you sometime? I said, anytime you want to meet with me, no problem. He said, okay. He said, well, could I see you and Dr. Odegaard before I leave in your office? I said, oh, certainly. We went back and we went back the door. He's about headed off me a little taste, Went by his private door, and I walked in front of him, turned around, and he walked. And I walked up to him, and I got that far away from him. President Odegaard, as long as I am a black man, don't ever talk to me through your teeth. Because if I can reach you, you'll wind up on your back. And that's all I said. Odegaard said, oh, Sam, his head's on my shoulder. I'm sorry. That will never happen again. I said, the way you looked and the condescending air, I don't take that from any man. Certainly not. That won't happen again. And it didn't. It didn't. God, I can't think of when I was any more angry. Yeah. But we bonded together. So when people say, oh, you're an Odegaard man. Yeah, you got that right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Loved the man. Yeah. And he knew it before he died, too. He knew it before he died, because I told him. He was at my 70th birthday party down here. Bill Hilliard picked him up and brought him down, and stayed with us. We built a house, first house we built, we were down here, and had my 70th birthday over here in Green Lake, what the hell ever it is out here at the golf course. And we had about 110, 15 people. And he was there, and I've got that on tape, Charles Odegaard, yeah. But he was a miraculous man. So, my next story about that happened just slightly before I came on campus, between the interview and the story I just told you. And that story relates to the days when I was going to report early without him knowing it. And I was at Shoreline teaching a class, etc. And I got this call from Odegaard's office and said, asked if I could come join them. The students are holed up at the hub. And it was over the holiday. White students got the holiday and when the students were killed in Ohio in that small school. What was that school? That school? Kent State, yep. Well, not too long after, Jackson State had a couple of kids, black kids. Remember that? Jackson State? Well, they gave, I think, 2 days or whatever it was. You know how that is. She just, the white kids got 2 days off. They won't let us have a day off. What the? Oh, God. So I heard this at a black student union meeting. Never think I would be involved, so because I hadn't reported to work. But he wanted to see what I had to think about it. So I said, well, President Odegaard, I got a class I just finished teaching. I will come down there and see what's going on. Let me do this. Let me go by the hub first. If they're there now, let me face them first. Well, would you do that? I said, I certainly will. And I hope you don't mind if I use what agreements we have. He said, not at all. So I said, well, I'll see you within an hour. So I went down and went up to the hub. And it must have been about, oh God, they had the first, second, third, about 300, 400 students just packed in there. Ultimately about 500 students. And I knew most of the black students. And they had heard that I was coming in and whatever. And I had made the rounds telling what I was going to try to do and that kind of stuff. And in a few weeks, don't bug me now. So the Black Student Union president said, well, maybe Sam's got something to say. Yeah, I was going to ask for permission to speak. Is that okay? So, sure, Sam, take the floor. And I said, look, I just got a call here 20 minutes ago from the President Odegaard. And he's telling me that you're getting there and I'll see about this day off and so on. So he didn't know if he could do that. And so I said, well, what's your brother and sister? Now, what's the beef? What's the beef? And then he told me. So we ought to get something, maybe not the same thing, but something I think we ought to honor black students still. So I said, what? Sam, I don't think we ought to honor black students. And I looked at him and said, well, hell, I think you ought to too. And they exploded. Okay, no, and I said, okay, now just a minute. I'm going to take you over that. I want the President of the Black Student Union, his defense minister. They got all these, his defense minister, his secretary. I want his 3 students go over there with me, and let's talk to the president. He's up there. Can you get in? Well, I'll tell you, if I can't get in, I won't be here to take this new job. Huh? Says he, man, just call me. So, well, you brothers and sisters, just chill out, just cool it. This is what you need, this is what you want. Let's see what we can do. So I went, and Larry Gossett was down. I'll never forget that day. Larry Gossett. And Larry would come up and say, hey, Larry, we're going to meet the president. And I said, what you going to do? And I told him. And Larry refused to come with me. Oh, yeah, the big Larry. I said, man, you refusing to come with me and with the students, the president of our student union, to see the president? I know, you understand. And he's shaky. Yeah. I got that in the book, too. Yeah. I'm calm like I see him. He's done a lot of good things, but he was political. He had to have his switch. Of course, when I came down there every time he was with me, you see, like, he'd know I was going to have a press conference. People there, just wanted to need some growing. He's grown. So I walked in with Chauncey Hill, President of the Black Student Union, and the secretary, and this chairman of the military, what the hell ever it was. But there were 3, 4 of us. And so well, Mr. Kelly Odegaard says that, I said, where are we now, Dr. Odegaard? What is it you're prepared to do? And he said, well, Mr. Kelly, we're going to do this, and I think we can do something. We prefer not to take up any more time off from the student's schedule, the work schedule, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And he said, and I said, well, Dr. Odegaard, can I hold you right there? Because the most important thing you just said, just in that voice, he said, I enthusiastically recommend that you approve 2 days. It's been observed that did it for the other school, and there's deep feeling about this. Some students who are relatives and that kind of stuff, and I think this would be a very good thing to do. Well, said Dr. Kelly, I said, Dr. Odegaard, I sincerely would appreciate your doing this. All right, Sam, we'll do it. First time calling me Sam. Sam, we'll do it. So I said, Dr. Odegaard, one more thing. Would you walk with us over to the hub, so I can announce this and that you're doing this? I think this would be a good day. Sure, I will. So, gentlemen, I'm going to give Grant 2 days. How, Dr. Odegaard, can we get a statement? Can we? I said, no, I'm going to see the students. We strutted out that day. We're clicking down. People, how we not? No, we want to see you in person. Walked up to the hub. We came in there. The students go, and I said, I've asked Dr. Odegaard to come here and share a few minutes with you. You're certainly empathetic for those things that happened at Kent State and for our school in the South. And I said, well, and I said, and he is going to grant what you've asked for 2 days, and I think this is a good day. I hope you report yourselves as brothers and sisters and ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of work to do. They just exploded. And I said, the clapping and whatever. And I put my hand up and just hold it. I said, you know, President Odegaard, I'm going to ask him just to make a comment. This is a very gracious thing he's done as the president of the university. Don't tell me the president doesn't have heart. He did. God, he stepped up here like a Greek warrior. I want the university to change all students. All students. Mr. Kelly going to work with me to see if we can accomplish that with your support. They exploded. So then one old young lady, radical white girl, what are you going to do about the women's program? What are you going to? I said, young lady, it's not about the women's program today. It's about Jackson State. And the kids exploded. And we walked out of there. And Odegaard got back there and he said, son, I never seen anything before like that since I've been in the university. Well, welcome aboard. I got in my car and went back and reported in about a month and a half earlier. And then he heard, you want to call me again? I didn't know you were down there. And they said, I've been here, Mr. President, trying to get a heads up on things. Well, come on up. And he put me on the payroll, you know, that effective, you know, including the days. I like that, the days that I was around and heard about, you know. So that's the way it was. Charles was a very great man. Very great man. And all I can say is that we did so many things comparable to that. I know in stories after stories after stories where Odegaard went into the community and became a part of, in my home, I had a large, lush home, about 5,000 square feet in Mercer Island, and it gives them receptions of regents and people in town, the mayor and the governor. Every time I looked at him, he was at my house. Dan, we were very, very close, even to today. Dan was very supportive and said so on TV in terms of fundraisers that we had. First telethon fundraiser is the one that I invented and brought to the University of Washington. That was me. That was the first one they ever had. They use it now and they make a lot of money. But he was very good. He was very supportive. And he was just like an older brother. I loved the man. And I don't mind saying it. So advocacy is what, through the University of Washington, that's me. And particularly as I am treating it in my book, that's the third part of it. But it's certainly, it's been generated through my actions with everything I've been a part of. So there you are, Sam Kelly, one each, infantry soldier, who's very proud of being an American, very proud of my country, happy that we can argue and discourse and not worry about going to sleep at night. And a few things in my life that I've done that I've been any more proud than being a soldier. And the others just follow suit. I've never done anything that I considered unimportant. The university thing was very important.